turn it over to Jim Nichol from American Diamond Logistics. You ready, please?
Yeah.
All right, you're on.
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming. I know it's that time of year where you start getting ready for the holidays and getting ready for finals and all that good stuff. But we're just going to talk a little bit about supply chain and project management, just business in general. So just 2 seconds about me. I don't talk about myself much at all, but I've got a wife and 3 boys. I grew up in the Plano area. Got into supply chain when I was about 25 years old. I didn't even know how to really spell truck, so I didn't know what I was doing, but I got into customer service and home delivery with Best Buy, managing kind of, home delivery services when they bring the TV, refrigerator, and dishwasher and washer and dryer. That was kind of the team that I managed with Best Buy early on. I was with them for several years and then went to Home Depot and managed a huge fulfillment center in Corsicana, Texas for Home Depot. I ran their transportation. It was 1.8 million square feet of warehousing, and we had 36 different trucking companies that we worked with to move all of our freight. So I did that and then moved into the asset-based trucking side of the world. With a company called Dart Transit. They're out of Eagan, Minnesota. They had 3,000 trucks and about 10,000 trailers. So I got into the trucking side of it. And then in 2014, I joined my business partner to kind of get American Diamond off the ground. We are a 3PL. Who knows what a 3PL is? The other thing I want to say is this has got to be interactive or it's going to be boring as hell for me to stand up here and talk for 45 minutes. So there's no wrong answers, but if you guys could help me out, that'd be great. Just to see what you know and what you're studying helps me kind of conduct the course. So does anybody know what a 3PL is? Yes. Great answer. Yes. So we are a 3PL, which is a third-party solutions provider for our customers. So we do multiple things for them. We do warehousing. We do the transportation. We coordinate with trucking companies. We coordinate with trailer leasing companies for their peak seasons. We do yard shuttle projects. We do trailer maintenance on storage trailers that are in their facilities. We do ocean and air freight for them. So the reason 3PLs have become so important to the supply chain is because it's constantly changing. We learned that through COVID. It's astronomical the amount of changes in supply chain that have happened in the last 5 years. And people realize that when a pandemic or something like that hits, you have to have multiple avenues to take care of your transportation, your goods, your raw materials, all of those types of things. So we learned really quickly that the 3PL model was going to really start rising to the top. And that's because we can offer so many services under one umbrella. It's easy for accounting purposes. It's easy for our customers to say, hey, I need you to handle my transportation in the Southeast. By the way, I'm also opening a warehouse in the Southeast. Can you do that? Yes, we can. Okay, well then I have to work with the ports in the Southeast to get my containers from the ocean freight coming in to that warehouse facility. Can you do that? Yes, we can. So typically your large trucking companies only do one thing, and that's just the trucking transportation part. But 3PLs have really learned how to elevate their game with technology and reporting and multiple services. So now that we've established that, that's what American Diamond Logistics is. So we're going to talk about distribution center growth in Texas. We're going to talk about the Houston port and why that's so important to Texas and the rest of the United States. We're going to talk about the supply chain challenges that everybody is seeing right now. We're going to talk about some of our services, some of our top accounts. Then we're going to talk about the tariffs, where trucking's headed with English speaking, all of that stuff. Technology and software is a huge growth platform for the trucking industry. If you think about transportation, trucking companies have been stuck in the same technology and the same mindset for 100 years. It's get a whiteboard, get a driver on a load, and track him from A to B. That's all changing. The software money, billions of dollars are being dumped into the trucking industry on artificial intelligence, call centers, the track and trace. You know, for the longest time, you could see where your pizza was every step of the way, but you couldn't see a load that had $200,000 worth of TVs from Chicago to California. That's all changed. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then at the end, we're going to save some time for questions and some discussion. So, Dallas-Fort Worth, you guys are very fortunate if you're studying project management, if you're studying accounting, if you're studying computer software, or you're studying supply chain and logistics. Dallas has become, the DFW area is the #1 hub in the United States for distribution center growth. So, in general, it's the largest. DFW is projected to be the #1 industrial market in the U.S. for 2025 and 26. So for the first time, DFW has surpassed LA, Chicago, and New York. So that's huge. Over 45 million square feet of warehousing projects will be built in DFW for 2025. I mean, think about that for a second. 45 million square feet just in DFW. How many of you drive up and down 35 from here to Fort Worth? Ever? What do you see? Warehouses, that's it. And half of them are what? Empty. Empty. So we keep building the infrastructure. Why is that so important for DFW right now? Growth. Everybody is moving to Texas. Everybody from Chicago, California, Minnesota. It's easy to do business in the state of Texas. It is easier for businesses to grow in the state of Texas. It's easier for them to spend billions of dollars to move their corporate offices here because it's easier for them to grow. That's a fact. Doesn't matter your political stance. That's a fact. So, in the past 5 years, we have developed over 150 million square feet just in DFW alone. That doesn't include Austin, San Antonio, Houston, Laredo. Everything is just DFW, 150 million square feet. So most local growth has been in North Fort Worth, that Alliance corridor from here to 35, or from here on 35 all the way to downtown Fort Worth. That's where the largest part of this growth has taken place. You see it, Callaway, Amazon, GE, American Diamond. Everybody is on that corridor for warehousing and transportation. It's a great part in the U.S. Why is Texas such a focal point for everybody to do business out of, manufacturing-wise? Location. You can get to anywhere in the U.S. in 2 days if you have to with a team driver. So it's really hard to build all of your manufacturing and production in California when a lot of your clientele is on the Northeast coast. Right? That's a 5 to 7 day transit, and it's extremely expensive to ship. So unless you're using rail and dividing it up and figuring out those ways, it's very difficult and very expensive. Texas is so centralized, and there's so much infrastructure here that you guys that are looking to graduate and get jobs, if you go anywhere else, you're crazy, because this is just going to keep growing. Houston. The Port of Houston has seen 10% growth year over year since 2015. So think about that. Why is the Port of Houston growing so much? Just shout it out. Why do you think the Port of Houston? That's right. Great answer. The other ports are so constricted right now, and they're so full that it's easier and even less expensive with transit times to divert ships to come into the Port of Houston. The other reason is because of what we just talked about. Texas is so centralized that when you have your goods come into Houston, you can get anywhere with that. If you're bringing everything in through LA and you're in Georgia or the Carolinas or the far Northeast, then you're paying to get that. I mean, it almost doubles your cost to get the transit types there. Port of Houston has provided over 1.2 million jobs for the state of Texas and an economic activity of $265 billion over just the last few years. So in 2025, it was ranked number 1 in total foreign and domestic waterborne tonnage. So that just means the amount that's coming into the Port of Houston. It was ranked number 1 in being able to handle that much volume coming in and growth. So it's the 5th largest ranked U.S. container port out of how many? How many commercial ports do you think there are in the U.S.? Take a guess. What's the number? Yeah. 7. Okay. Anybody else? 12. Okay. You guys are not thinking about all the little port extractions along the Carolinas, Florida. What? Okay. 360. There's 360 commercial U.S. ports. And when I mean commercial, it means it brings in something besides its own product on somebody's backyard in Florida. So 360 ports nationwide. The top 25, some of you were kind of closer to that number, the top 25 ports do 86% of our inbound volume. So those other small ones are maybe a container a month coming in for a certain company that owns some property along a port. But yeah, 360. Any questions so far? Okay. These are the top 10 states for distribution center growth in the United States. Texas is number 1. Why has Arizona grown to number 2? Okay. I'm looking for something. That's true, but I'm looking for something else. Why is Arizona all of a sudden growing so massively in distribution center? Yes. Okay. It's a good point, but I'm still looking for something else. That's great. These are all correct answers, but I'm still looking for something else. Why are so many companies leaving California? Taxes? Very much. Location, taxes, and it's hard to do business in California. Their property taxes, their restrictions, everything that they do is very difficult for companies to grow and make money in California. So they're leaving. They're moving all of their supply chain initiatives to Arizona because they can make money in other states. Georgia is number 3. New Jersey, Illinois, California, Indiana, Nevada, South Carolina. Why is South Carolina growing so much? That's right. A lot of corporate companies are going to Atlanta, Dallas, parts of South Carolina. So they're absolutely growing in those areas. And so those areas, distribution center-wise, transportation-wise, supply chain-wise, have to grow with it. When you have these big companies moving to your cities, you have to maintain the infrastructure. You have to build. It's kind of like the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. And so that's what we're doing in DFW. We just continue to build the infrastructure. Okay? Supply chain challenges in 2025. So let's talk about that. You saw a couple things. But what are the supply chain challenges that you hear about on the news, that you're learning about in class, that you're seeing from your dad's business or your uncle's business or your friend's business? What are the supply chain challenges right now? Hot topics. Anybody? Yes, sir. Tariffs. Man, that's all that it is. That's 24-hour news on tariffs. So those are huge challenges because it's slowing down. When big Fortune 500 companies are talking about billions of dollars, they pause. What does that do to the economy? Absolutely. When companies that we deal with, like Body Armor, Coca-Cola, Anderson Windows, when those companies pause, everybody else pauses. All of their infrastructure pauses. Their raw materials production people pause. Their sales team pauses. Everything starts to slow down because they don't know the rules that they're going to have to operate in. Once we get on the other side of these tariff discussions, and once everything is finalized, then everybody knows how they're going to have to operate. And they're either going to make changes to bring their raw materials production into the U.S., or they're going to know what their payments are going to go up in order to keep doing business in countries outside of the U.S. So once they know the rules, then they can operate. But until they know the rules, they just pause.
It's extending not because of the price, but because it's changing every week and they can't prepare properly.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So they just kind of wait. They just say, okay, we're going to wait till this plays out, and then we're going to figure out how we're going to operate once the agreements are signed. So that's what we're waiting on. Okay. What else? What else is a huge concern right now in the transportation and supply chain industry? Yes, in the back. Insurance. Man, thank you for saying that. Not many people think of that. Everybody thinks of fraud and theft and tariffs and all of that. Insurance. Think about, this is probably a question for your parents, and some of you pay your own insurance, some of you have houses and pay your homeowner's insurance. But think of insurance coverage for an industry where you can have billions of dollars of fatalities. When a 18-wheeler gets in an accident, 90% of the time there's going to be a death because it's just an 80,000-pound missile going down the road. So insurance companies are now saying, we're getting out of the transportation. We're getting out of trucking altogether. We've had 2 brokers that we've worked with for years say, yeah, we're just not going to insure logistics companies anymore. It's too much risk for us, and the reward is not there. So when you think about these trucks that drivers have to insure, and you think about companies like us that have warehouses all over the country, and we have millions of dollars of product in those warehouses, I mean, insurance companies are like, man, we're just going to work with other industries. You guys are too much risk. And that's having a huge impact on just pricing and being able to stay afloat for these truck drivers, especially owner-operators. So an owner-operator is an individual that buys a truck, starts an MC, and hauls freight. And maybe they build it up to 5 trucks, maybe they build it up to 20 trucks. But the problem is those guys are going out of business faster than they're coming on board because they can't afford the insurance. It's literally double their mortgage payment on a house when they have an 18-wheeler and they're just getting started. It's almost impossible. So, great answer in the back. Appreciate that. What else? Anything else? Yes. Yes. The average, we're going to talk about that in a minute, but the average age of truck drivers in the United States is what? Anybody take a guess? Yeah. Yeah, 55. 55 years old. Are any of your parents telling you to go to college and get an education and come out and become a truck driver? Anybody? No. So the industry is really hurting for truck drivers coming into the market. What else is impacting that right now in the news? Okay. What else? There's a specific rule. Yes. English-speaking truck drivers. And that's not just Spanish. We're talking about Russian, Ukrainian, all of the folks that are coming into the industry and getting their CDLs to drive trucks. Because it can be a lucrative job. If you run your business correctly in trucking, you can make money. And you can have low costs if you don't have a house. If you live in that truck and you run and you're all over the country pulling freight, you know, if you're single and wanting to do it for 5 years, you can make money. So if you can't speak English, that's a problem. That's where some of these fatality accidents are coming in. They're doing that study right now on the one that just happened. The guy got a CDL from California, shouldn't probably have qualified for it, and there's some fatalities involved. And what they're finding out is he couldn't read the road signs, he couldn't speak the language. That's a problem. So that's something that's affecting the industry right now. So these are the biggest ones. Rebounding economy. We are hoping and praying. I've been in supply chain and trucking for 25 years. And the last time that it got even close to this bad was 2008, 2009. Talk to your parents about 2008, 2009. It was pretty rough as a recession. This, since we came out of COVID, 2022, 23, and 24, and most of 25, has been the longest freight recession that I've seen in my lifetime. So we're hoping that 2026, we start to see that come out. What's going to affect that? Coming to grips on these tariffs, getting some of these regulations in place, and the interest rates, that's a big part of it. So there's a lot of things affecting it still, but we're hoping that we see some change in that going into 2026. So theft and fraud in the transportation industry is at an all-time high. It's up 36% since 2023. So why do you think that freight theft is escalated so high? Can anybody take a stab at that? What would impact that, or what is making that easier? Technology, 100% technology. So during COVID, everybody and their brother went out and bought a box truck or a semi because the rates were just like, find me a truck. Nobody's working. So find me a truck and I'll pay you whatever. I saw rates go from Dallas to Houston, which has been $600 for 35 years, go to over $1,000 for a load from Dallas to Houston. Like $1,200. Sometimes we were paying $1,500 to go from Dallas to Houston with a trucking load. And that's been $600 for 30 years. Yes. Yes. Absolutely, absolutely. So what happened is everybody went and bought trucks and box trucks during COVID. And then when we came into 2022 and 23 and the economy was struggling and freight kind of really slowed down, all these people thought, oh my gosh, I can't make money doing this. This is ridiculous. I'm going to sell my MC number and my equipment. So what do hackers and thieves do? They buy an MC number that's been in business for 2 years. It has great service ratings, and they buy that MC number for like $15,000. So they say, hey, I'll buy your company MC number and take it off your back. Well, then they use that clean MC number because most companies will not do business with a transportation company that is less than 2 years old. That's almost everybody's standard onboarding. So they have 2 years, they have great service, they have inspections, DOT inspections that are clean, so they buy that MC number. So a company like ours looks at that data, we call, talk to somebody with that company, and they steal as much freight as they can in like a 72-hour period, booking loads and stealing freight. And then they just close it out and move on and go buy the next one. So hackers, we had a load where, this just happened last week. We had a carrier call in for one of our loads. He said, yep, I'm going to get on your tracking app because we have our own proprietary software that tracks the truck. And he was going from a VoIP phone, which is a computer-generated phone, to a landline. What he didn't do is when he logged into the freight tracking app, it showed up in Bosnia. And so we were like, wait a minute, that's not right. So we were able to cancel the dispatch, but that would have been a stolen load. But it only blinked for like 30 seconds on our tracking app, and it showed out of this country. And so we knew it was a bad driver. We knew it was a bad company calling for that load. So that's the stuff we deal with every day. Massive changes in technology platform. It's extremely expensive. So artificial intelligence. I'm 52, so I'm old. And this whole AI thing is new for me, but I'm having to get on board because I've got some of our directors of operations and all of that stuff telling me, hey, we've got to do this. So they did a demo for me where we have artificial intelligence answer inbound calls about our loads. So a driver will call in and say, hey, I want that load that you have posted from Dallas to Chicago. And the computer generated response is like, okay, great. What's your MC number? You can't tell. And so they go back and forth, and the driver says, well, what are you paying on that load? And the AI platform says, well, we've got $900 in it. So if you can do it for that, it's yours. And the driver said, man, I really need 1,000. And the artificial intelligence was like, I don't know if I can go to 1,000. I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. So, but those platforms are extremely expensive. You're talking thousands of dollars a month, and you're replacing people to do it. So I would rather have people that come into our office every day that are going to be customer service focused. They're going to be catching these little clips on the GPS when something shows up in Bosnia and we can see it for 30 seconds. But that's something that is happening, and I'm not going to be able to stop it myself. So insurance coverage, we talked about that. Drug screening for CDL drivers. Does anybody know, like, if you get a ticket in Denton, okay, let's say you get a speeding ticket in Denton, and then 3 months later you get pulled over in Arkansas because you're going to see a friend. Does the person in Arkansas know you got a ticket in Denton? No. Typically they don't, because the systems don't talk to each other. The state of Texas is different. So if you have a ticket or a warrant in Texas, they may not pick it up in Arkansas. So it used to be the same with drug screening for truck drivers. It used to be if you had a DUI in the state of Texas and you got pulled over in Florida, they may not know or pick it up because the systems didn't talk to each other. Now, if you were convicted as a felon, then that DUI would be on there. But if you got pulled over and you're working through the court systems and it takes a year, that system in Florida may not know that you have a DUI pending on your record. That changed. In 2025, all of the systems talk. And it talks about past experiences too. So if I'm a truck driver that had a DUI 3 years ago, and in 2025, I just lost my CDL. So that has wiped out massive capacity right now. So that's been a change. Cost of warehousing, buildings, property taxes, insurance coverage, we talked about that. Port and labor strikes, you guys heard about that this year, right? The LA ports are striking. I think it lasted 10 hours. But the fear and the threat of it sends massive waves through supply chain. Natural disasters. Gosh, 2024, how many hurricanes and flooding and thunderstorms did we have? Like the Carolinas were almost wiped out completely. Like it was crazy. So Florida, the Carolinas, so the natural disasters are massively disrupting supply chain. 2025 has been a little bit better, but 2024 was unbelievable. I mean, I've never seen that many big storms since like Katrina and Ike and some of those hit in the same time frame. But tariffs and taxes, goods, I mean, that remains uncertain, right? We don't know how all that's going to play out. They're starting to make some headway, but now we have the government shut down. All of that creates what? Pause. Creates pause, which creates disruption. So, cybersecurity, you mentioned that. That's a real thing. Hackers are getting so smart, and the technology to do it is incredible. So I went to a theft and fraud conference in Florida last year, the end of 2024, and they said that the average 3PL, like American Diamond, is targeted 28 times a day for stolen loads. 28 times a day. And we have processes in place. But unfortunately, I had to terminate one of my best employees last week because it was a Friday afternoon and he didn't do 2 processes and we had a stolen load. And the processes are there because we've learned from our mistakes and we make them foolproof. You have to follow these steps to avoid getting a stolen load. And we missed 2 steps because it was Friday afternoon at 3:30 and he wanted to get out of there. And I get it, but that's going to cost you your job. So those are some of the top things. So LTL, does anybody know what LTL is in the supply chain world? Yes. Less than truckload. So that's if one of our customers wants to move 4 pallets. They don't want to pay a big truck price. They want to move 4 pallets. So on our services, that's a platform that's really growing for us right now because there's a lot of small manufacturers and shippers that have come to Texas that are looking for partners to do multiple things. And that's where we come in. We do dry van, which is your full big truckloads. We do flatbed, which is just that. It's a flatbed with tarps. We can move equipment, forklifts, stonework, whatever. We do LTL, which is less than truckload. We have a portal. Our customers log in. They tell us how many pallets. We send a truck, pick it up. They get better pricing. We do heavy haul, which is like big bridge beams or wind turbines going to West Texas. We do that. We do intermodal, which is the rail. We do international shipping, which could be air freight. We go in and out of Canada. We have customs clearance to do that. We do Mexico work on the border of Laredo. Yard services, meaning we will send a truck and they'll put trailers in and out of doors at a warehouse or a distribution center for months. We do that for Ulta Beauty. That's a big customer of ours. So during their peak season, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all you girls and ladies want to look pretty, so you get all your Ulta Beauty products. So for 4 months, we are in their yards just loading containers and trailers in and out of doors all day long. And they pay us to do that because we can do it. Trailer leasing, Ulta Beauty, same thing. During their peak season, they need trailers. They don't want to build a warehouse square footprint for 4 months out of the year. That's not profitable for them. So they want to lease trailers for a couple months, and they store everything on those lease trailers. And then when they're done with peak season, they get rid of the lease trailers. So we do month-to-month leasing, trailers all over the country for them. Warehousing, that's a huge footprint for us. So we are very good at warehousing. Our vice president of warehouse services spent 25 years with Tractor Supply, GE, Bosch Appliances, Sony. So he's really good on the warehousing side. Does anybody drink Olipop? Okay, it's kind of the new healthy soda, right? That's our largest warehousing customer. So we do warehousing for them all over the country, and we also handle their transportation. A lot of it, not all of it. So these are some of our big customers. We work with Body Armor Sports Drinks. We work with Amazon. We work with Anderson Windows. We work with Coca-Cola. We work with Mars. Pet Care, a lot of their dog foods and things like that. Olipop, Pella Doors. New Line Interactive TVs, have y'all ever heard of them? They're the touchscreen, really awesome TVs. You walk up to it, it senses that you're there, so it turns on. You can draw on it. My oldest son is an architect, and they have like 5 of them in their architectural offices, so you can just walk up to it and start drawing on it. It'll do math equations. It's really awesome. That's a huge customer of ours. HEB, Altium Packaging, they do all of the bottles for Oak Farms and Shep's milk. So huge customers. Nestle Waters and Ulta Beauty. So those are just some of ours. 2025 at a glance, where is trucking headed? So I want to ask a couple questions. When you think of a truck driver, what's the first thing that enters your mind? Anybody? Gas stations, okay? That's legit. What else? What do you think about the truck driver? When you think, hey, I'm a truck driver, what do you think of that person? Sitting a lot, just driving. Lots of energy drinks. That's probably true. What else? Fast food, maybe unhealthy, right? That's a great point. What else? One key thing I'm thinking about. You're sitting in here getting an education. What do you think of a truck driver? Lower education or uneducated? A lot of people think that truck drivers are typically uneducated. So that's the stereotype that they have to deal with each and every day. I will tell you that 65% of the owner operators that we deal with in our contracted fleets are college graduates. They are highly educated. They are extremely good businessmen. They know how to calculate their fuel. They know how to calculate their insurance coverage, what they need to make each mile to be profitable. They know when they can take some downtime during peak seasons of the year, like produce season, where to shift to. All of our drivers from Dallas shift to Laredo during produce season because they can make 3 times as much coming out of Laredo with avocados and watermelon and cantaloupe than they can running freight from Dallas to Houston. Christmas tree season in the Northwest. You know, you think about Washington and you think about Montana, it's Christmas tree season. So all the drivers in the country shift to the Northwest for the next couple months because they can make 3 times as much money coming out of there. And they're smart about how they do it. They're smart about when they get out there. They're smart about their backhauls to get them back out there. They're smart enough about their rate structure. So just some things to think about. Most people, when I ask them that question, say uneducated, dirty, unhealthy. I mean, I've seen a lot of guys in my parking lot when they're waiting on a load that are jogging, they're doing push-ups, they're doing sit-ups, they're working out, they've got dumbbells. They're using that hour and a half to get their workout in. So just think about that stuff. Equipment. It's so expensive. You guys have Peterbilt right here in Denton. So in 2020, a brand new Peterbilt truck averaged $160,000. $160,000. That's more than my first house. Okay? What do you think it is in 2025? Average. The average Peterbilt over-the-road truck with a sleeper in it is $258,000. Isn't that crazy? I mean, think about that. Most homes, when you're starting out as a family and getting married, your homes weren't $250,000, let alone a truck. And then to insure that. And then you have a wife and kids at home with a mortgage and all of that. That's expensive. So rising costs, age of equipment, maintenance costs. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's really getting crazy. We go back to insurance. My man in the back that talked about insurance first. That is 25% of the challenges of supply chain and logistics companies right now is insurance. Autonomous trucks. Has anybody watched those videos yet with like some of the trucks that they're testing on the roads? How long do you think it is before we have fully autonomous trucks? I think it's going to be much longer than that. Why is the idea of an autonomous truck failing right now? Does anybody know? That's right. The uncertainty of the roads itself. Yeah. What does anybody drive in DFW where there's not construction? That's right. Have you ever been driving and thought like, "Oh my gosh, where is the lane?" Okay, how is an autonomous truck that reads that, how is that going to maneuver when there's a construction site that is not clearly marked? That's the challenge. That's where these things are failing. So until they can fix that, that is going to continue to push the timeline way out. Because one mishap and that company goes out of business with lawsuits. One mishap. There's not enough insurance in the world that is going to save a company that puts an unmanned truck on the road and it kill 30 people at a stoplight. It's just not going to happen. Nobody's going to touch that. Yeah. Yeah. So these are the things, some of this stuff we've already talked about. Average truck driver is 55. Government regulations continue to tighten the industry, decreasing the earning potential. English speaking impact. That is huge. There were like 2 weeks ago, I read an article that there was 5,500 drivers taken out of supply chain in 1 week. 5,500 drivers in a 5-day period completely wiped out. And they haven't even gotten started. So that's going to be huge. Driver wages. That is something that has not elevated, because what is driver wages based on? That guy making money is based on supply and demand. So he has his truck and the economy right now is soft, freight is slow, he is not making money. And he's scrapping. They can do that for a year. They can't do it for 3 or 4 years, which is what this cycle has been. So they're really struggling. So the wages have not increased with the price of these trucks. You go $100,000 inflation from 2020 to 2025, and his wages, I guarantee you, didn't increase 50%. No way. So that's a huge problem. The equipment is so expensive. It's a tough lifestyle. They're away from their families. They're on the road. It is not attractive. Again, your parents and you, some of you, I don't want to keep saying your parents because a lot of you are on your own for your college education, and I totally respect that and support that because you're doing the right things. Your parents or yourself is not sitting here in this room saying, I want to be a truck driver. Like it's too attractive. Now, before logs and when they could run illegal and they could kind of make their own rules, they were making 250,000 a year. Wasn't safe, but they were doing it. Now those regulations have stopped that. Companies are turning to 3PLs. Again, a 3PL is so important because a trucking company can only do one thing. A trucking company is only going to provide transportation in the areas of the country that they are strong in. Like when I was with Dark Transit, we ran the Southwest and the Southeast. That was it. We didn't do to California. We didn't do the Northwest. We didn't go into the Northeast. It was kind of, that Southeast corridor from Texas to Florida, maybe up to the Carolinas and back over through Arkansas. That was it. So the only thing we could do for those companies that needed us was help them in the Southeast and the Southwest. But we couldn't help them. So they had to have multiple trucking companies. A 3PL like us, we can do all kinds of things for them because we have partnerships with multiple trucking companies. So it makes it easier for them if we manage it and we use our relationships to cover their entire freight network. Does that make sense? Okay. Insurance companies moving away from transportation. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point and a great question. So what we do is I'll use Olipop for example. Okay, Olipop has their products manufactured at a beverage manufacturing company right here in Fort Worth. Our warehouse is 2 miles away. So what we try to do is we have a company that we work with a lot in South Carolina. And we told him, hey, if you want to move some of your trucks to Dallas, we will give you this dedicated freight. So we're gonna pull 10 loads a day manufactured from this facility to our warehouse. And you're just gonna run back and forth all day long. And we're gonna pay you what rate do you need to be successful with that? And let's say he says $200. Okay, it's like, okay, well, if you need $200 to be profitable, then we're going to pay your drivers a day rate, okay? So let's say they get 5 loads done in a day. We're going to pay you $1,100. So really 1,000 is what he needs to be profitable. But we're going to pay him 1,100 because we don't have to mess with it. And so we go back to Olipop and say, hey, we have a day rate or we have a per load rate, and we're going to contract that with you for all of 2025. So that trucking company now has set rates. Their drivers are home every night. We find freight that is attractive to them, and it's profitable for them. And the reason Olipop will pay us a little bit more to do that is because they don't have to worry about service. They don't have to worry about multiple trailers, multiple trucks coming in and out of there. They load the same drivers every single day with the same trailer pools. And that just makes it much easier for all sides of it. Does that make sense? Oh, yeah. For sure. For sure. Great question. Let's see, we got a few more minutes here. Technology, we've talked about it. Artificial intelligence, it's crazy. It's taking over the industry. Fraud, taking over the industry. All of that is technology driven. We developed our own TMS system, which is a transportation management system, and we developed our own tracking system. So we control it, we own it. That helps with the hacking and stuff like that. So those are our systems. If you ever look up online, if you're ever interested in researching our company and what we do, Navigator TMS and freighttracer.com, those will take you to our platforms and kind of show you what we do. Okay. So, any questions? Any topics I missed? Yes, sir. Yeah.
That process, a whole lot of, all right, let's get back to you, let me get back to you. Is there ever a time where, drivers or the client might, try to force a hand and they get a price from you right there?
Sure. Sure. Yeah, we have that all the time. That's called spot market pricing for us. So we have customers that call in to our operations team and they say, hey, we've got 5 loads from Dallas to Chicago today. I need 5 trucks. What's your rate? And we may say, hey, we can do all 5 for $1,000 a piece. And they say, well, I've got another carrier that's at $950. I'm going to take it. Sometimes we lose that freight. So they can push on that when the market is soft like this. When it turns, then that's where we go back and we're in the driver's seat. So yeah, the spot market pricing changes every day, and we have to be very quick with how we respond to it and how we price it, or we could lose freight. A lot of our relationships are contractual, dedicated stuff, so we really don't play in the transactional market as much, but it's still part of our business. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay.